Placing the final on offer now on BBC Two, so it's straight back to John and that chair.
First in the spotlight tonight, Gareth Kingston, a marketing manager from Flitwick. His subject, the legendary football manager, Herbert Chapman. Next, Malcolm Sumner, a teacher from Cheltenham. His subject, Benjamin Disraeli. Andrew Hunter, a computer consultant from Grimsby, will be answering questions on the railways of Great Britain. John Sneden, a teacher from the Forest of Dean. His subject, the scientist Edward Jenner. And Nick Reed, a house husband from Crowborough. His subject, the Blanding Stories of P.G. Wodehouse. Hello and welcome to Mastermind with me, John Humphreys. 5 contenders are about to compete for a place in this year's grand final. From the black chair, they will face a minute and a half of questions on their specialist subject and then 2 minutes on general knowledge. The winner will take a step closer to owning the famous glass bowl and, much more importantly, becoming the nation's mastermind. So let's get on with it and ask our first contender to join us, please. And your name is?
Gareth Kingston.
Your occupation?
Marketing manager.
And your specialist subject?
The life and career of Herbert Chapman.
Herbert Chapman, 90 seconds starting now. Chapman was the manager of which football club when he won the first of his 2 FA Cups and 4 league titles?
Huddersfield Town.
Yes, who turned down the manager's post at Northampton Town in 1907 and advised Chapman, his teammate at the time, to apply for the position instead?
Walter Bull.
Yeah, what was the occupation of Chapman's wife Annie, who sparked a controversy in 1905 when she continued to work despite having a husband earning £4 a week?
Teacher.
Yes, which player did Chapman recruit from Aston Villa in 1921? He became the captain at Huddersfield Town.
Clem Stevenson.
Correct. In which publication did he see the advert placed by Arsenal on the 11th of May 1925 asking for applications for the position of team manager?
Athletic News.
Yes, in 1928 he signed a player for £10,890. Chapman described it as one of the best bargains I ever made. Who was the player?
David Jack.
It was. In which subject did he gain a first-class diploma while he was playing football as an amateur so that he always had a trade to fall back on?
Mining engineering.
Yes, at which ground did Huddersfield Town defeat Preston North End to win the FA Cup in 1922?
Stamford Bridge.
Correct. Which Leeds City fullback informed the authorities of illegal payments to players, which led to Chapman receiving a life ban from the game in 1919?
Charles Copeland.
Yes, for which company did he work as a superintendent from 1919 till shortly before his ban from football was lifted and he became the manager of Huddersfield Town?
The Olympia Oil and Coke plant.
Yes, or Joseph Watson and Sons. Which French team did Chapman's Arsenal play on Armistice Day each year from 1930 onwards?
Racing Club de Paris.
Yes, which cup final tradition involving the players did Chapman convince the FA to introduce for the 1930 match between Arsenal and his previous team, Huddersfield Town?
Teams walking out together.
The teams walking out together is absolutely right. You had no passes. You got them all correct. Gareth Kingston, you have 12 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Malcolm Sumner.
Your occupation?
School teacher.
And your specialist subject?
The life and times of Benjamin Disraeli.
Benjamin Disraeli, in a minute and a half, starting now. For which constituency was Disraeli first elected to Parliament in 1837?
Maidstone.
Yes, what title did he take when he was ennobled by Queen Victoria in 1876?
Earl of Beaconsfield.
Yes, what was the name of the wealthy older widow whom he married in August 1839?
Mary Ann Wyndham Evans.
Yes, or Mary Ann Lewis, whose sudden death in September 1848 ultimately led to Disraeli becoming the leader of the Conservative Party in the House of Commons?
Lord Derby.
Lord Bentinck. What was the title of Disraeli's first novel, which he wrote in 1824 but never published?
Vivian Grey.
The Adventures of Mr. Elmer Papillon. By what fanciful name did he sometimes refer to Queen Victoria in a romantic allusion to Edmund Spenser?
The Fairy.
Yes, after standing unsuccessfully for Taunton, Disraeli challenged which Irish MP to a duel? He then challenged his son, but neither would accept.
O'Connell.
Yes, when Disraeli lay dying and was asked if he'd like Queen Victoria to visit him, he replied, better not, she'd only ask me to take a message to... who?
Prince Albert.
Yes, in his last novel, Endymion, who is portrayed as Count Ferrell?
Bismarck.
Yes, in 1875, when Disraeli arranged for Britain to buy the Khedive of Egypt's shares in the Suez Canal, which banker agreed to loan the money to the government?
Rothschild.
Yes, whom did he appoint as Viceroy of India, 1876?
Mayo.
Earl Lytton. What did the Israelis say he hoped he'd brought back from the Congress of Berlin in a famous phrase that would later be used by another Prime Minister?
Peace with honour.
Yes, Lord Derby's 1852 government was known by what name from the response of the elderly and increasingly deaf Duke of Wellington when he was told the names of its members?
The Who Ministry.
Yes, after the death of his wife in 1872, Disraeli fell in love with Lady Selina Bradford, a 54-year-old married woman, though he eventually proposed to her older sister. What was her name?
Lady Chesterfield.
Is correct. No passes, Michael Sumner. You have 11 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Andrew Hunter,
Your occupation?
computer consultant.
And your specialist subject?
The railways of Britain in the 20th century.
Railways in the 20th century, minute and a half starting now. The Railways Act of 1921 grouped the railways into 4 companies. Which of these was the only one already in existence at the time?
Great Western.
Yes, which tunnel through the Pennines was completed in 1954, only to become redundant in 81 when the line was closed?
Woodhead.
Yes, what's the name of the incline between Grantham and Peterborough, down which Mallard set a record of 126 miles an hour for a steam engine in 1938?
Stoke Bank.
Yes, Britain's worst railway disaster involved 5 trains and the deaths of over 200 people in 1915. It took place at which signal box?
Quintin's Hill.
Correct. In which city was the so-called Dockers Umbrella, the first elevated urban electric railway in Britain? It closed in 1956.
Liverpool.
Yes, what was the title of Dr. Beeching's first report on the railway's future that came out in March 63? It led to large-scale line closures.
The reshaping of British Railways.
Correct. Who was successively chairman of the Highlands Railway, the North British Railway and the LNER?
William Whitelaw.
Yes, British Railway's emblem that appeared on locomotives after nationalisation featured what animal standing over a wheel?
A lion.
Yes, the general manager of the Southern Railway from 1923 to 37 drove forward the railway's electrification programme. What was his name?
Herbert Walker.
It was. Who designed City of Truro, the locomotive unofficially credited with being the first to haul a train at over 100 miles an hour in 1904?
Churchwarden.
Yes, which company whose main line ran from Carnforth to Whitehaven was the smallest of the companies that formed the LMS in 1923?
Maryport and Carlisle.
Furness Railway. In which town was Evening Star completed in 1960? It was the last steam engine built for British Railways.
Swindon.
Correct. Which company, part of the English Electric Group, built the Deltic diesel engines fitted to locomotives that operated on the East Coast Main Line from 1961 to 1982?
Napier.
Napier is correct. You have no passes and 12 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
John Sneden.
Your occupation?
I'm a teacher.
And your specialist subject?
The life and career of Edward Jenner.
Edward Jenner, minute and a half starting now. Jenner was a pioneer of vaccination against smallpox by inoculating people with which other disease?
Cowpox.
Yes, from which institution did Jenner obtain his medical degree in 1792?
St Andrews.
Yes. Who was his tutor at St George's Hospital from 1770 and wrote to him for many years afterwards? At his request, Jenner carried out experiments such as measuring the temperature of hedgehogs.
John Hunter.
Yes. What was the name of the dairymaid from whom Jenner took the cowpox matter with which he vaccinated an 8-year-old boy in May 1796?
Sarah Nelms.
Yes. As a student in the 1770s, he helped Joseph Banks to classify specimens collected during the voyage of which ship?
The Endeavour.
Yes, the first edition of Jenner's inquiry into the causes and effects of the variole vaccine was dedicated to which physician?
Caleb Parry.
Correct. Whose dairy in Gray's Inn Road did Dr. William Woodville visit in January 1799 in order to collect cowpox to test Jenner's vaccination claims?
Robert Tanner.
Mr. Harrison's. From what disease did his son Edward die in 1810 at the age of 21?
Tuberculosis.
Yes, the fossil remains of which prehistoric reptile were discovered by Jenner at the foot of Stinchcombe Hill, Gloucestershire in 1819?
Plesiosaurus.
Yes, in 1783 at Berkeley Castle, Jenner staged a demonstration of a recently developed form of transport. What was it?
It was a hot air balloon.
Yes, in 1802 the House of Commons voted to grant Jenner a payment in recognition of his work on vaccination. What amount of money was he given?
£10,000.
Yes, at which tavern in Ulverston did he meet with colleagues and friends in the Convivio Medical Society?
The Ship Inn.
Yes, in 1787 Jenner presented a paper to the Royal Society on the nesting habits of which bird?
Cuckoo.
Is correct. No passes for you either. You also, John Sneden, have 12 points. And our final contender, please. And your name is?
Nick Reed.
Your occupation?
House husband.
And your specialist subject?
The Blanding Stories of P.G. Woodhouse.
The Blanding Stories in 90 seconds starting now. Blanding's Castle, described as a noble pile of early Tudor building, is in which English county?
Shropshire.
Yes, in Lord Elmsworth Acts for the Best, the butler Beach considers handing in his notice after 18 years of service. What's the Earl done that's upset him so much?
Grown a beard.
Yes, Ash Marson, Lavender Briggs, Monty Bodkin and Joan Valentine have all worked for which publishing house off Fleet Street?
Mammoth.
Yes, for what reason is Gladys's brother Ern banned from the Blandings Parva school treat?
Biting Lady Constance in the leg.
Yes, who is the author of the reference work The Care of the Pig, a book Lord Elmsworth always turns to when he's stressed?
Whiffle.
Yes, in Service with a Smile, Lord Ickenham says he's not seen his friend James Schoonmaker for many years because of what unfortunate habit that many Americans develop.
Living in America.
Yes, how many times is the unpopular Baxter shot with an air gun by various members of the household, including the butler?
4.
Yes, in The Go-Getter, what's the name of the crooning tenor whose only means of livelihood consists of intermittent engagements with the BBC?
Orlo Watkins.
Yes, what's the title of the Blandings novel that Woodhouse was working on when he died? It was published posthumously in 1977.
Sunset at Blandings.
Yep, what sight distracts Edward Coots long enough for Smith to hit him over the head and take his pistol?
Freddie Freepoot's leg coming through the ceiling.
Yes, what gruesome sound has Beefy Bingham here that makes him think Lord Elmsworth's in trouble?
Him singing.
Yep. On Visitors' Day, the prize pig, Empress of Blandings, is thought to have swine fever. What's actually wrong with her?
She's drunk.
She is. What does Baxter do in Leave It to Smith that finally causes Lord Emsworth to fire him?
Throw flower pots through his window.
Yes, Tubby Parslow realises that Maudie Stubbs is still the woman for him when he sees her enjoying a dessert consisting of whipped cream, egg white, powdered sugar, seeded grapes, shredded coconut and orange gelatin. What's the name of the dessert?
Orange passion.
Well, it was a noble attempt. It was actually ambrosia chiffon pie. Nonetheless, no passes, 13 points. Well, a very close round there. Let's have a look at those scores. In 5th place with 11 points, Malcolm Sumner. Joint 2nd place, 12 points apiece, Gareth Kingston, Andrew Hunter and John Sneden. In the lead, just 13 points, Nick Reed. Round 2 now, general knowledge, and if there is a tie at the end of this round, which there very well might be, the way we're going, then the number of passes is taken into account, and the contender with the fewer passes is the winner. If they're tied on passes as well, there will be a tie break. So let's get on with it and ask Malcolm Sumner to join us again, please. And you scored 11 points with your knowledge of Disraeli. Let's see how you do with your general knowledge. 2 minutes, starting now. In Greek mythology, which Olympian god was king of the sea?
Poseidon.
Yes. Which reggae star, born in Jamaica in 1945, had the middle name Nestor?
Bob Marley.
Correct. Who wrote the poems Buckingham Palace, King John's Christmas and Us Too?
A.A. Milne.
Yes. Joaquin Rodrigo composed his Concierto de Aranjuez for which solo stringed instrument with orchestra?
Guitar.
Yes, in theoretical physics, a theory that unifies the 4 fundamental forces of nature is known as a TOE. What do these letters stand for?
Theory of everything.
Yes, what name is shared by a freshwater fish of the salmon family and a species of brownish butterfly?
Skipper.
Grayling. Which range of hills that extend approximately northwest from near Taunton to the Bristol Channel reach their highest point at Will's Neck, some 1260 feet above sea level?
Quantix.
Yes, who controversially did not win the Pulitzer Prize in '74 with Gravity's Rainbow, a novel set in the devastated Europe of the Second World War?
Pynchon.
Yes, which country is almost entirely surrounded by India, except in its southeastern corner where it has a border with Burma?
Bangladesh.
Yes, which Irish-born former sports commentator was the first subject of the British television show This Is Your Life, a show he went on to present?
Eamon Andrews.
Correct. Whom did Henry V marry in 1420 after the Treaty of Troyes had acknowledged him as the heir to the French throne?
Catherine of Valois.
Yes, the name of which small thin sausage is derived from the Italian word for onion?
Mortadella.
Chipolata. In the 1978 film The Boys from Brazil, which Nazi war criminal was played by Gregory Peck?
Hitler.
Mengele. What is traditionally the last event of the Wimbledon tennis fortnight?
The men's singles.
Now, the mixed doubles final. Which country's flag consists of a blue cross outlined in white on a red background with the vertical part of the cross shifted to the hoist side?
Iceland.
Norway. In Jonathan Swift's novel Gulliver's Travels, what's the name of the ship on which Gulliver is shipwrecked on Lilliput?
The Antelope.
Yes. What position did the appropriately named Sir Igor Judge take up on the 1st of October 2008?
Lord Chief Justice.
Is correct. No passes. You have a total, Malcolm Sumner, of 23 points. And Gareth Kingston again now, please. And you start out with 12 points with your knowledge of Herbert Chapman. 23, the score to beat. 2 minutes of general knowledge starting now. The femur is the medical term for which bone?
The thigh.
Yes, what colour does litmus paper turn in acid solutions?
Red.
Yes, what word for a building in a sports ground in which players change their clothes and store equipment comes ultimately from the Latin for a butterfly?
Pavilion.
Yes, which Scottish musician who's commissioned dozens of new works for percussion instruments became profoundly deaf in childhood?
Glennie.
Yes, what common metal was introduced to the public at the Paris Exposition of 1855 where it was regarded as a new precious metal?
Stainless steel.
Aluminium. Which box-like structure used in underwater construction work gives its name to an alternative medical term for decompression sickness?
Benz.
Caisson. Which Formula One team, one of the oldest in sport today, is named after the New Zealand driver who founded it in 1963?
Lotus.
McLaren. What term used to describe the virtual reality generated by computers was coined by the science fiction writer William Gibson and popularised in his 1984 novel Neuromancer?
Cyberspace.
Yes, which London-born actor played the part of the electrician Barry Taylor in Auf Wiedersehen Pet and features as Peter Pettigrew in the Harry Potter films?
Spall.
Yes, the first three letters of which alphabet are Aleph, Bet and Gimel?
Jewish.
Yes, or Hebrew. What name for the War of 1739 between England and Spain referred to an incident of 1731 where a British sea captain had part of his anatomy removed by Spanish coastguards who'd boarded his ship?
Jenkins Ear.
Yes, which heavy metal band formed in the mid-70s by the bass player Steve Harris is named after a medieval instrument of torture?
Iron Maiden.
Yeah, in Thomas Gray's poem lamenting the death of his favourite cat, Selima, what fish were in the tub in which she drowned?
Perch.
Goldfish. Václav is the Czech form of what name, that of the patron saint of the Czech Republic?
Wenceslas.
Yes, which marine snails have highly coloured shells that have been widely used as money in parts of Africa and Asia and are also used as decoration?
Escargot.
Cowries. Which historic city on the Adriatic coast has a name meaning oak forest in Croatian?
Dubrovnik.
Yes, what name's given to a painting or carving on 3 panels hinged together to form a single work of art?
Triptych.
Yes, the shop steward Derek Robinson, also named as Red Robbo, achieved notoriety in the 1970s for his activities at which car plant in the Midlands?
Longbridge.
Is correct. No passes. Gareth Kingston, you now have 25 points. And Andrew Hunter again now, please. You also start out with 12 points. With your knowledge of railways, as you know, you have 25 to beat. Let's see if you can do it. 2 minutes, general knowledge. What name's given to the offspring of a male donkey, a female horse?
Mule.
Yes, which river, the longest in Ireland, enters the Atlantic Ocean through an estuary below the city of Limerick?
Shannon.
Yes, which bravery award was originally made for the metal of guns captured at the siege of Sebastopol during the Crimean War?
Victoria Cross.
Yes, in painting and decorating, what word of French origin is used to describe a dull, non-glossy finish?
Bat.
Yes, which Norwegian national park and mountain range is named after the land of the giants in Norse mythology?
Fjordland.
Jotunheim. Which actor, best known for his television role as an overweight detective, played the gang member Dim in the film A Clockwork Orange earlier in his career?
Frank Callan.
Warren Clark. What's the title and the first line of the poem by Dylan Thomas that continues, dead men naked they shall be one with a man in the wind and the west moon?
Pass.
In which European capital city are the Charlottenburg Palace and the Tivoli Pleasure Gardens?
Copenhagen.
Correct. Which outlaw's square helmet that featured in paintings of him by Sidney Nolan is an iconic image in Australia?
Ned Kelly.
Yes, what name for a variable resistor used to adjust electrical current comes from a combination of the Greek for stream and to cause to stand?
Rheostat.
Yes, Alfred the Great was the king of which Anglo-Saxon kingdom?
Wessex.
Yes, which singer and actress starred in the musical films Calamity Jane and Young at Heart?
Doris Day.
Yes, what's the common name for the allergic skin condition urticaria?
Impetigo.
Nettle rash. Which female novelist wrote Castle Rackrent, first published in 1800? It's been described as the first true historical novel in English.
Pass.
Which Surrey and England fast bowler had a grandfather Morris who played cricket for Somerset and England and a father Tim who played for Hampshire?
Bedser.
No, Chris Tremlett. Alan Sherman's 1963 hit about a boy at summer camp writing to his parents is sung to Ponchielli's Dance of the Hours. What's the song's title?
Pass.
The light young wine Vino Verde is produced in the north of which country?
Italy.
Portugal. The Anglican Cathedral in Liverpool is mainly constructed from which locally quarried stone?
Granite.
Sandstone. What title, now held by the eldest son of the monarch, was originally created for the feudal rulers of the Hebridean Islands?
Lord of the Isles.
Lord of the Isles is correct. You had 3 passes. Hello, Mudder, Hello, Fadder was that Alan Sherman hit. Maria Edgeworth is often described as the first true historical novelist in English. And the Dylan Thomas poem, And Death Shall Have No Dominion. You have, Andrew Hunter, 22 points. And John Sneden again now, please. And you also start with 12 points with your knowledge of Edward Jenner. Still 25 to beat. 2 minutes, here we go. Which Australian-born opera singer has a peach dessert named after her?
Nellie Melba.
Yes, which camel found in Central Asia has 2 humps?
Bactria.
Yes, what's the literal meaning of the Latin expression tempus fugit?
Time flies.
Yes, which type of nut has Spanish varieties including Valencia and Jordan?
Almond.
Yes, what expression for technicians and scientists who work anonymously was coined by Lord Beaverbrook in a speech in March 1941 to honour the unsung heroes of the war effort?
Pass.
The singer and pianist born in 1919 with the forenames Nathaniel Adams is better known by what name?
Nat King Cole.
Yes, Inverary Castle in Scotland is the ancestral seat of which dukedom?
Argyll.
Yes, which work by Giovanni Boccaccio consists of 100 tales told over 10 days by 10 young people who have fled plague-stricken Florence for the countryside?
The Decameron.
Yes, who painted the landscape Dedham Vale Morning in 1811?
John Constable.
Yes, which city has 2 clubs in the Rugby League Super League and a football club that played in the Premier League for 2 seasons between 2008-2010?
Hull.
Yes, which American president was born in 1833, 7 years before the election of his grandfather William Henry to the presidency?
McKinley.
Harrison. Who is the lover of Harlequin in the Harlequinade, which is based on the Italian Commedia dell'arte?
Pass.
Which dramatist wrote the plays entertaining Mr. Sloane, Loot and What the Butler Saw?
Joe Orton.
Yes, what name for the toxic substance used by South American Indians to tip arrows for hunting comes from an Indian word for poison?
Pass.
Who played the title role in the historical drama television series I, Claudius?
Derek Jacobi.
Yes, in which European country did women first win the right to vote in national elections in 1971 and in all local elections in 1990?
Ireland.
Switzerland. In geology, what name of Spanish origin is given to a large crater formed by the collapse of the central part of a volcano after eruption?
Caldera.
Yes, the Feast of the Annunciation on the 25th of March, one of the English quarter days, is known by what alternative name?
Lady Day.
Yes, which 1963 film stars Jack Lemmon as a Paris policeman who tries to save the soul of the title character, a streetwalker played by Shirley MacLaine?
Gigi.
No, Irma la Douce. And you have 3 passes. Curare is the name for that poison. Columbine, or Columbine, is the lover of Harlequin. And Beaverbrook came up with Backroom Boys to describe the unsung heroes. You have 25 points. And finally, Nick Reed again, please. And you start out with 13 points with your knowledge of Woodhouse. 25 is still the score to beat. Here we go, 2 minutes starting now. In athletics, which track event is sometimes known as the metric mile?
1,500 metres.
Yes, what Italian term is used for the speed at which a piece of music is performed?
Tempo.
Correct. Which form of corporal punishment takes its name from the tree whose bundled twigs were generally used to carry it out?
Lynching.
Birching. Which organisation was founded when a group of environmental activists set sail from Vancouver to bear witness to American nuclear testing in Alaska?
Greenpeace.
Yes, Sir Henry Newbolt wrote a patriotic poem about a drum that would be heard again when England was in peril. Whose drum?
Drake's.
Yes. In which country are the cities of Kerman and Tabriz that are particularly noted for the manufacture of carpets and floor coverings?
Turkmenistan.
Iran. Which football club ended its 35-year period without a trophy when Yaya Toure scored the only goal in the 2011 FA Cup final against Stoke City?
Manchester City.
Yes, what's the name of the order of aquatic mammals that includes whales, dolphins and porpoises? It comes from the Latin for whale.
Cetaceous.
Yes, which 19th century American author, often referred to as the father of the detective story, wrote Murders in the Rue Morgue?
Raymond Chandler.
Poe. In which North African country did the Jasmine Revolution begin in January 2011? The name was taken from the country's national flower.
Egypt.
Tunisia. Who sang You Can Call Me Al on his 1986 album Graceland?
Paul Simon.
Yes, in the Iliad, which Trojan hero killed by Achilles was the son of King Priam and the husband of Andromache?
Paris.
Hector. In June 2011, which Nobel Peace Prize winner and pro-democracy campaigner revealed that she listened to Dave Lee Travis on the World Service while she was under house arrest?
Aung San Suu Kyi.
Yes, what's the most abundant element in the Earth's crust, consisting of nearly half of its mass?
Iron.
Oxygen. The RPS, which was founded in 1853, specialises in which art form?
Photography.
Yes. Which award-winning actor is the son of the man who was poet laureate from 1968 to 72?
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Correct. What form of bread raised without yeast has been an Irish specialty since the late 19th century?
Soda bread.
Yes. Which comedian's novel, The Death of Eli Gold, tells of family members gathering around the hospital bed of an eminent elderly novelist?
David Baddiel.
Yes. On which island is Keal Ake Kua Bay, where Captain Cook was killed on the 14th of February 1779?
Tahiti.
Hawaii. An important point, that. No passes. Nick Reed, you have, you know what I'm going to say, 25 points. Well, I said it was going to be close. Let's have a look at those scores. In fifth place with 22 points, Andrew Hunter. Fourth place, 23 points, Malcolm Sumner. Third place with 25 points and 3 passes, John Sneden. Joint first place with 25 points and no passes, Gareth Kingston and Nick Reed. Which means, most unusually, we have a tie-break. So I'll read the same 5 questions to each of the contenders, and the one with the highest score will win. And we're not against the clock this time. So let me ask Nick Reed to leave the studio so he can't hear the questions, and Gareth Kingston to come to the chair, if he would, please. So 5 questions. As I say, you're not against the clock, but you do have to answer the question immediately, otherwise it's considered to be the wrong answer. Here we go. The popular humming chorus is from which opera by Puccini?
Turandot.
No, Madame Butterfly. Who served as George Washington's vice president during his 2 terms of office?
Johnson.
John Adams. Noble rot is a form of fungus that can affect which fruit, shrivelling it rather than actually rotting it?
Apple.
Grapes. Which island at the mouth of the Firth of Clyde is sometimes called Scotland in miniature because of the variety of its scenery?
Staffer.
Aaron. Who won the 1995 Booker Prize with The Ghost Road, the third in her trilogy of First World War novels?
Pat Barker.
Is correct. Those are your 5 questions. Can I ask you please to go back to your seat? And now Nick Reed, who's been waiting outside, join us again, please. Your 5 questions. You're not allowed to pause, even though you're not against the clock. Here we go. The popular humming chorus is from which opera by Puccini?
Tosca.
Madame Butterfly. Who served as George Washington's vice president during his 2 terms of office?
John Adams.
Yes. Noble rot is a form of fungus that can affect which fruit, shrivelling it rather than actually rotting it? Answer, please.
I don't know.
Which island at the mouth of the Firth of Clyde is sometimes called Scotland in miniature because of the variety of its scenery?
Aaron.
Yes. Who won the 1995 Booker Prize with The Ghost Road, the third in her trilogy of First World War novels?
Barker.
Pat Barker is correct. Nick Reed, thank you. So, at the end of that tie-break, we have a winner. With 26 points, Gareth Kingston, but with 28 points, Nick Reed. Which means that Nick Reed claims a place in the grand final. Congratulations to him. And do please join us next time for another semi-final and more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Well, you won't get this at the Garden Centre. Make plants for free by taking cuttings. Gardener's World shows you how next. While over on BBC One, personal stories not about the ship, but about the people. Titanic with Len Goodman.
Lord Byron.